funny thing about success, it doesn't always knock. Sometimes it barges in like a drunk uncle at Christmas, ruining everything and pretending it's the best damn thing that's ever happened to you. I was 35 when I made my first million. It didn't come pretty. I clawed my way up from late-night shifts in the back of a diner to running the largest logistics firm on the East Coast. Sleepless nights, endless days, and every bridge I could afford to burn to keep the fire alive, I did it all. And for what? At the time, I told myself it was for her. For Ava. For the family we were building. But somewhere between deal number 3 and betrayal number 30, I stopped building a life and started constructing a kingdom. One made of gold, not love. One she wanted no part of. Ava left on a Tuesday. No warning. Just a note taped to the fridge. Said she was tired of talking to a ghost. Tired of waking up to cold sheets and colder silences. Tired of pretending she still recognized the man who used to dance with her barefoot in the kitchen after midnight. And just like that, she was gone. I didn't cry. Not then. I buried myself deeper. Opened a new branch. Bought another building. Watched the number in my bank account swell like some sick parody of joy. The silence in that penthouse was deafening. I used to love the view. Skyscrapers stabbing into the clouds, planes carving vapor trails across a bleeding sunset. Now it just looked like a cage with prettier bars. I still saw her sometimes in the way sunlight hit the hardwood, in the smell of chamomile tea when I passed a cafe. Ava was everywhere and nowhere. And the funny part? I was the one who taught her how to disappear. Then came the crash. Not a literal one, those come later. No, this was quieter. A whisper of betrayal that started with a headline. Dalton Freight accused of labor violations, CEO silent amid scandal. At first, I thought it was a joke. A smear. Some desperate competitor throwing shade. But it wasn't. It was my COO, my college roommate, Paul, lining his pockets while I looked the other way. Contracts rewritten behind closed doors. Workers underpaid, overworked, and silenced with NDAs I never signed. It all came unraveling so fast. One day I was shaking hands with senators, the next I was shaking from rage in a deposition room under fluorescent lights that made even my expensive suit look cheap. They asked me if I knew. And the truth? I didn't. Not because I was innocent, but because I didn't care enough to notice. Somewhere along the line, I stopped seeing people as people and started seeing them as pieces of a puzzle, parts of a machine that kept printing money and fed my ego like a starving dog. That night, I sat alone in my office with a bottle of bourbon and the city sprawled out beneath me like a lover I betrayed. I finally cried then. Not for the lawsuits. Not for the headlines. But for the voicemail I'd ignored 2 years earlier. Ava's voice, cracked with something close to goodbye. "You're not the man I fell in love with," she'd said. And maybe I never was. I woke up the next morning with a headache made of shame and whiskey and the kind of clarity that only comes when everything you built starts to rot from the inside. That was the day I decided to walk away. From the company. The boardroom. The empire. I sold it all. Every share. Every holding. Liquidated down to the bones. People thought I was crazy. Some called it guilt. Others whispered scandal. But the truth? I was just tired of being rich and empty. I bought a beat-up Ford. Packed a duffel bag. Left the penthouse key in the mailbox and drove until the skyline disappeared behind me like a bad memory. And somewhere on a stretch of highway between nowhere and who cares, I saw a diner flickering with neon like it remembered how to dream. That's where I met him. A kid no older than 20. Busboy. Thin, nervous smile. Reminded me of myself back when I believed in second chances. He spilled a pitcher of water and apologized so many times I thought he might pass out. I just laughed and said, "Relax, kid. You didn't drown me." That made him smile. A real one. And for the first time in years, I felt human. I stuck around that town longer than I planned. Wasn't much to it, a gas station, that diner, a few blocks of houses that all leaned a little left like the wind had worn them down over the years. But there was something about the quiet that felt honest. The kid's name was Miguel. He had these big eyes that carried more weight than any 20-year-old should. We got to talking after a few more spilled waters and a slice of cherry pie that tasted like someone's grandma still worked the kitchen. "You passing through?" he asked one day, wiping down a table beside me. "Guess I am," I said, staring into the dregs of my coffee. "But the road ain't told me where I'm going yet." He nodded like he understood. Sometimes it's not about where you're going. Just about stopping before you crash. That line hit harder than it should have. I started helping out at the diner unofficially. Fixed the squeaky back door. Rewired a few lights. Even taught Miguel how to balance the books. Poor kid was using a calculator like it was a Rubik's Cube. They offered me a cot in the back office. I didn't say yes, but I didn't leave either. Something in me was still bleeding. Not the kind you see. The kind that hums beneath your ribs at 3 a.m. when the world's asleep and you're left alone with the ghosts you built. I didn't tell anyone who I was. Not really. To them, I was just Jack. That's what I told the waitress when she asked my name the first morning I walked in. Not Dalton. Not sir. Not Mr. CEO. Just Jack. It felt right. Every few days I'd drive out past the edge of town where the land flattened into gold fields and the sky looked big enough to swallow you whole. I'd sit on the hood of the truck, flip through an old leather notebook and write. Not business notes. Not deals. Just thoughts. Memories. Regrets. The kind of stuff that didn't have numbers attached. That's when I started writing letters. To Ava. I never mailed them. Probably never will. But there was something sacred in the act. Like maybe if I could get it out of me, I'd stop dreaming about her laugh or the way she used to fall asleep with her hand on my chest, fingers curled like she was holding on to something. And then one morning, as the sun broke over the diner's chipped awning, I found her. Not Ava, but the second earthquake in my story. Her name was Claire. She was standing outside with a stack of flyers and a look like someone had stolen her map and replaced it with a riddle. Lost? I asked, sipping coffee on the porch. She turned, startled. Her eyes were tired but sharp. Only if you've seen a golden retriever named Duke with one ear and a taste for fried chicken. I chuckled. That's specific. He's very opinionated, she said dryly, holding up one of the flyers. He bolted 2 days ago. I'm putting these up everywhere. I took one. Saw the dog's lopsided grin and instantly liked him. I'll keep an eye out. Thanks, she said. Claire, by the way. Jack. She blinked. You don't look like a Jack. I shrugged. Maybe I used to be someone else. She didn't press. Just gave a half smile like she got it. Next morning, she was back. No dog. More flyers. I bought her a coffee. Next day, same thing. A rhythm started to form, two strangers orbiting the same broken diner, waiting for their worlds to make sense again. She was a teacher on leave. Burned out, she said. Took care of her dad till he passed. Stayed too long in a town that forgot how to hold her. Now she was searching for what, she wasn't sure. I didn't ask if Duke was the real reason she stayed. Some things are better left floating. One evening, we sat on the truck bed and watched the stars come out. It was quiet. Honest. You ever think about starting over? She asked. Every damn day. She looked over, her face lit by the orange glow of a cigarette she barely touched. So why haven't you? I don't think I knew what starting over looked like until now. She didn't reply. But she reached out, rested her hand near mine. Not touching. Just close enough to remind me I wasn't alone. And then the past caught up. It always does. A black Escalade rolled into town one morning. Tinted windows. Sleek. Out of place like a wolf dressed in church clothes. I was loading boxes in the back when I saw it. A man in a suit stepped out. Looked around like he smelled something he didn't like. His eyes landed on me and didn't move. It was Robert, one of my old lawyers. He walked over, slow and sure. Jack, he said. Or should I say, Dalton? Miguel looked at me, confused. Claire froze at the sound. You've been off the grid for 6 months. The board wants answers. The SEC's asking questions. You can't just disappear. I didn't disappear, I said quietly. I just stopped pretending I liked who I was. He didn't laugh. There's talk of charges, Jack. You need to come back. Clean this up. I shook my head. I'm done cleaning messes I didn't make. You are the mess, he said, voice cold. You built it. And maybe I had. But I also walked away. I'm not coming back, I said. Tell them to do what they want. He stared for a long time. Then he said something that froze the air in my lungs. Ava's been asking about you. Before I could speak, he climbed back in the SUV and peeled off, tires spitting gravel like the earth was mad at him. Miguel walked up, cautious. You okay? I didn't answer. Because something had shifted. A storm I thought I'd left behind was heading straight for me. And this time I wasn't sure I could outrun it. I didn't sleep that night. Too many pieces twisting in my head like broken glass in a blender. Ava. The board. The threat of charges. My old life clawing at the edges of this new one like a stray dog begging to be let back in. I sat in the truck until the sky turned gray and mean. Claire found me there the next morning. No makeup. Hoodie pulled tight. She leaned against the passenger door without saying a word for a minute, just watched the wind push dust across the gravel. Want to talk? She asked finally. Not really. She nodded. Good. I'm not in the mood to listen anyway. That pulled a tired laugh out of me. She climbed in beside me, knees pulled up, coffee in one hand. We just sat, breathing the same air like it meant something. I used to think walking away meant you were weak, I said eventually. But staying? That's what killed me. She looked over, quiet and steady. Some places can't be saved. Some people either. I knew what she meant. The next few days I kept my head down. Worked double time. Anything to keep my mind from wandering back to what Robert said. Ava's been asking about you. Why now? Why after all this time? Maybe she was just looking for closure. Maybe it was a setup. Or maybe she still remembered the man I used to be before the world taught me how to lie to myself. Claire noticed the shift. Her eyes tracked me differently, like she was waiting for the moment I'd vanish. Then one night, she called me out. We were sitting behind the diner watching Miguel try and fail to fix a busted neon sign with duct tape and blind optimism. "You gonna tell me what that suit really wanted?" she asked, arms crossed. I didn't lie. Told her about the company, the board, the mess I'd left behind. "You were a CEO," she said slowly, like she was tasting the words. "Of Dalton Freight?" I nodded. Watched her pull away even if her body didn't move. "I read about you," she said, voice tight. "You were supposed to be the golden boy. The one who came up from nothing and sold America back to itself." "I sold a lot more than that," I muttered. "My soul, for starters." She stood, pacing. "You lied to me." "No," I said, standing too. "I didn't tell you. That's not the same thing." "It feels the same." Her eyes were glassy now, but not from tears. From fury. From hurt. "I trusted you, Jack. Or whoever the hell you are." I stepped closer. I wasn't hiding. I was healing. By becoming someone else? No. By remembering who I was before all of it. That hung in the air for a long moment. She didn't say anything else. Just turned and walked back inside. And just like that, whatever we were building crumbled like sand in a fist. The next morning, the diner was quiet. Miguel avoided my eyes. Claire didn't show. I fixed a leaky sink, wiped down tables no one was sitting at, and tried not to think about the fact that for the second time in my life, I'd driven away someone who mattered. That's when the call came. Blocked number. Static on the line. And then, "Mr. Dalton," a voice rasped, "we'd like to have a word." I froze. "Who is this?" "Think of us as the cleanup crew. We handle what the press can't." "I'm not interested," I snapped. "I'm out." A long pause. Then, "You don't get to be out. You were in too deep for too long. Walk away now and others pay the price." Click. I stared at the phone, heart pounding like a war drum. This wasn't just business. This was a threat. And if I'd learned anything from my old world, it was this. Power doesn't like to be abandoned. That night, I made a decision. I was done hiding. Done running. I pulled out the old leather notebook and made a list: names, deals, timelines. Every shady thing I'd ever ignored. Every partner who smiled with a knife behind their back. I'd spent years pretending I didn't see what was happening under my nose. Now I was going to use every damn thing I knew to burn it all down. But I couldn't do it alone. So I went to Claire. Stood at her door, heart in my hands, shame stitched across my face. "I need your help," I said when she finally opened it. She stared at me, arms folded. "Why would I help you?" "Because I don't want to be that man again," I said. "And you're the only person who ever looked at me like I wasn't him." Her jaw clenched. She looked away. Then stepped back. "Start talking." Claire didn't speak for a while after I laid it all out, every name, every backroom deal, every silence I'd sold for a bigger slice of the pie. She sat on the edge of the couch, arms wrapped tight around herself like she was holding in a scream. Her eyes didn't flinch though. She listened. She heard me. When I was done, the silence between us felt like it had weight. Like it could crush us both. "You should be in prison," she finally said. "I know. You helped cover up worker deaths, Jack. There were people, families." "I know." Her voice cracked then, just enough to sting. "So why now?" I looked at her, raw. "Because I hate what I became. And I want to destroy the version of me that let it all happen." She didn't move. Didn't nod. Didn't blink. But she stayed. That was enough. That night, we started digging. Not metaphorically, I mean really digging. Through emails, old drives, encrypted folders I'd hidden in offshore shell companies, all under aliases designed to erase me from history. Only now I was pulling them back up. Every secret. Every lie. Claire was sharp. Faster than I gave her credit for. Within an hour she'd traced 3 of the accounts used to launder kickbacks through a fake charity I'd signed off on 5 years back. They used it to funnel hush money, relocate whistleblowers, even bankroll the personal lifestyle of one of my ex-partners. "It's all here," she whispered, scrolling through transaction logs. "You have enough to bury half your board." I shook my head. "Not bury. Expose." She looked at me then, not with pity. Not with rage. With resolve. "Then we're going to need help." That's where Miguel came in. He was skeptical at first, obviously. One day I'm helping him balance the till, the next I'm revealing I used to sit in rooms with billionaires who laughed while slicing pensions in half. But he didn't walk away. "You want to fight the rich?" he said, after Claire filled him in. "Hell, I've been waiting for a reason." We used the diner as our war room. After hours, we'd stay behind and build the case. Claire knew a guy from her teaching days, a journalism grad turned freelancer who was hungry for a real story. He came in from Denver with a recorder, a thick mustache, and a smile like a man who smelled smoke and knew where the fire was. "I published this," he said, flipping through the files, "and you realize you're a dead man, right? Then make it worth dying for," I told him. He grinned. The closer we got to the truth, the louder the world started banging on the door. My old life was stirring. Threatening emails. Blocked calls. One night I came out to find the truck's windshield smashed, a note taped to the steering wheel. "You're not a hero, Jack. Stay dead." Claire read it over my shoulder. Didn't flinch. "They're scared," she said. "They should be." Still, the tension started fraying our little trio. Miguel wanted to go public now. Claire wanted more proof. And me? I was barely sleeping. My brain was a beehive and every sting was another deal I'd made with the devil. Then came the breaking point. The freelancer, his name was Riley, called me at 3:12 a.m. They found me. I sat straight up. What? My motel room. Wrecked. Laptop's gone. But I got the backups. Meet me outside town. 30 minutes. I grabbed my bag, my drive, and every sliver of courage I had left. Claire was already waiting in the truck. "You're not going alone." We found Riley parked at the edge of a field just off a dirt road. He looked rattled, eyes darting like a cornered animal. "They're watching." I saw a drone. "They're tracking me." I handed him a burner phone we'd prepped just in case. "Upload the files. Send them to everyone on the list." He nodded and slid into the back seat with the drive. Claire was watching the tree lean. "Miguel should have been here by now," she muttered. That's when we heard it. A crack. Not thunder. Not a car backfire. Gunfire. Riley ducked. I hit the gas. A second crack, louder this time. Claire screamed my name, pointing behind us. Two headlights far back, gaining fast. I jerked the wheel off-road, tearing through the field, engine roaring like a beast off its chain. The truck bounced, tires digging into the dry soil. "Hold on." We barreled into a thicket, branches scratching across the windows like claws. I kept going until the path dipped and we were hidden below a ridge. Silence. Only the engine ticking and our breaths, sharp and ragged. "Are they gone?" Riley whispered. "I don't know," I said. "But we're not safe." Claire checked the laptop. "They didn't get the files. We still have everything." I nodded. Then we dropped the bomb. The next day, it went live. Every document. Every wire transfer. Every signature. The story hit like a sledgehammer. Top of every feed within the hour, Dalton Freight whistleblower breaks silence. They used my name. My real name. I knew what that meant. But when I stepped out of the diner and saw Claire waiting there, arms folded, chin high, and Miguel beside her, fist clenched like he was holding onto purpose itself, I didn't feel scared. I felt free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't hiding behind power. I was using it to burn down the lie I'd helped build. But nothing that big dies quietly. And what came next? Let's just say, they weren't gonna let me walk away twice. The fallout came fast. Like wolves scenting fresh blood, the media tore into the story with claws out. Headlines screamed corporate giant collapses under scandal, Dalton Freight CEO blows whistle on corruption, and my personal favorite, from millionaire to martyr? Yeah, real poetic. By noon, reporters were outside the diner like it was a crime scene. Cameras, boom mics, even a guy trying to fly a drone through the front window. Claire locked the door. Miguel flipped the sign to closed, and I stood in the back kitchen trying not to shake apart. "I didn't think it'd blow up this fast," I said, staring at the flickering fluorescent light overhead. Claire handed me a glass of water. "You dropped a nuclear bomb on a billion-dollar empire. Did you expect applause?" "No," I muttered. "But I didn't expect this either." "Be glad," she said. "They can't ignore you now." But not everyone was watching from the sidelines. That night, a blacked-out van rolled past the diner twice. No plates, no lights, just slow and deliberate like it was memorizing the building. Claire saw it from her apartment upstairs and texted me one word: "Move." I was already halfway out the back door when the first window shattered. They didn't come in guns blazing. No, these guys were professionals. Silent, coordinated. The kind who didn't need to speak to know what to do. But I'd spent a decade in boardrooms where people gutted each other with smiles and $800 pens. I knew what death smelled like, even when it wore cologne. I got Claire and Miguel out the back, through the alley behind the bakery. Riley was already in the truck, laptop clutched like a life raft. "What the hell is happening?" Miguel hissed, ducking as more glass popped like firecrackers behind us. "They're cleaning up," I said, tossing the duffel into the bed. "Starting with us." We drove through the night. Country roads, lights off, phones off. Paranoid? Sure. But you don't survive this long in my world without learning that paranoia is just another word for staying alive. We ended up at a storage unit I'd kept under a different name. Something I set up back when I still thought I could outrun the past. Inside was a backup of every drive we'd uploaded, plus cash, burner phones, and a beat-up motorcycle I'd never learned to ride. Miguel stared at it. "What is this? A Jason Bourne starter kit?" I smiled, despite the dread in my gut. "More like insurance." For the next 48 hours, we went dark. No internet, no calls, just planning. We knew they wouldn't stop with scare tactics. The board, the execs, the dirty partners, they weren't just afraid of the truth. They were afraid of exposure. And someone high up was helping them. Claire made the connection. Late one night, cross-referencing flight logs with campaign donations, she found a name I hadn't heard in years. Senator Howard Renner. Old money, big mouth, and one of the first men to shake my hand when I made it. He was a ghost in the paperwork, but his fingerprints were everywhere. Greasing deals, burying audits, laundering influence through foundations that didn't exist. Miguel stared at the screen like it might bite him. "So what? He's behind all this?" "No," I said, "but he's the string. We pull on him. The whole sweater comes undone." Riley nodded. "I can get this to a federal contact. Someone clean. But we have to move. If they find us first." We didn't let him finish. We knew what "if" meant. Next morning, Claire shook me awake. Eyes wide, pale. "They found us." We scrambled, loading gear, wiping the place clean. Riley took the drives. I grabbed the backup duffel. Miguel held the truck keys tight in his fist. "I'm not leaving unless you're with me." I locked eyes with him. "You don't get a say, kid. You've already done too much. And I'm not backing out now." I was about to argue when the sound came. Thwop, thwop, thwop. Helicopter. Low. Fast. We bolted out the back just as floodlights hit the front door like a second sun. Armed men, real ones this time, spilled out of black SUVs in tight formation. Claire jumped into the cab. Miguel floored it. Riley was in the back seat, hunched over the laptop, mumbling, "Uploading, uploading, come on, baby." I stayed behind, just long enough. I needed to be the bait. I ran left while they chased right, ducking behind buildings, through alleys, over chain-link fences like I was 20 years younger. My lungs burned. My legs were bricks. But I didn't stop until the sound of boots on gravel was gone. When I doubled back to the highway, they were gone. Claire had turned around. Found me. Risked everything. I collapsed into the seat beside her, coughing, laughing, terrified. "You came back," I said, voice hoarse. She looked at me like I was an idiot. "Don't be stupid. You're the only one who knows where this ends." That night, we got the proof to Riley's contact. Senator Renner's empire started to crack. Arrests were made. Investigations opened. But not fast enough. Because 2 days later, I got the call. Blocked number. Familiar voice. Flat. Emotionless. "We couldn't find you, Jack. So we found Ava." The line went dead. And everything inside me went cold. I don't remember dropping the phone. But I remember the sound it made, sharp, final, like something cracking beneath its own weight. Claire had been pacing. She froze the second she saw my face. "What happened?" My mouth was dry. Words didn't come easy. "They took Ava." She blinked. "What a?" "They couldn't find me," I said, voice flat, almost not mine. "So they took her instead." Miguel slammed his fist on the table. "We knew they'd try something. We knew it wasn't over. But knowing and living it are two different things. Ava, the one person I never stopped loving. The one casualty I couldn't justify. I'd already destroyed her once by accident. Now they were using her to destroy me on purpose." Claire reached for my arm, steadying me. "We'll get her back." "How?" I snapped, the fire boiling now. "They've got money, reach, muscle, hell, they probably know where we're standing right now." "I don't care," she said. "We're not backing down." And she meant it. All of them did. Riley started tracing call logs and digital breadcrumbs, hopping between signals like a mad ant. Claire pulled out old contacts from her activist days, off-the-grid types with skills and scars to prove it. Miguel? He just sat beside me, phone clutched tight, whispering prayers in Spanish I hadn't heard since childhood. That night, we found our first real lead. A warehouse. Abandoned on paper, but flagged in one of Renner's offshore property bundles. Location matched the last tower ping before Ava's phone went dark. It was a long shot, but it was ours. We rolled up at 3:17 a.m. cloaked in fog and moonlight. The place looked dead. Rotting metal, barbed wire fence, weeds taller than I remembered weeds getting. "Stay here," I told the others. "This is my mess." Claire just stared at me. "Jack, shut up." Miguel tossed me a flashlight. You're not doing this alone, old man. We crept inside through a busted panel near the back. The air smelled like oil and rust and secrets. I moved first. Felt it in my bones, this place wasn't empty. The first voice we heard was hers. Muffled. Terrified. Ava, I breathed, and everything inside me snapped like a tension wire stretched too far. We found her tied to a chair in a dark corner of the warehouse. Duct tape across her mouth. Tear tracks on her cheeks. But her eyes, those firebrand green eyes I'd loved since I was broke and hopeful, lit up when she saw me. And then, "Don't move," came the voice behind us. 6 men. Guns drawn. Suits. Tactical boots. No badges. Private. Expensive. "You were supposed to stay buried, Jack," one of them said. "Now you get to die trying to be a hero." "Let her go," I said, stepping forward. He laughed. "Or what? You'll bankrupt us again?" I didn't speak. I just nodded. And then Claire hit the switch. We'd planted cameras. Microphones. A live stream running right now through Riley's encrypted feed. The whole world was watching. The warehouse lit up like a stage. "You're live," Claire said, holding up her own phone with the glowing screen. Smile. They hesitated. It was only a second. But it was enough. Miguel charged one of them with a metal pipe like a damn superhero. I lunged at Ava's captor, shoulder-checking him into a crate as the gun clattered out of reach. Claire was already pulling Ava free, cutting the tape, whispering to her like a lifeline. A shot rang out. Then another. The chaos was thunder. Pain bloomed in my side. White hot. I dropped to my knees. Claire screamed. Miguel roared. But Riley's voice crackled through the earpiece like a lifeline. "Jack, you still live. Say something. The world's watching." So I did. I looked at the nearest camera and said what I never had the guts to say until now. "My name is Jack Dalton. I was a monster. I built an empire on greed, on silence, on the backs of people I never bothered to see. But I see them now. And I will not let the people who helped me ruin the world keep winning." I coughed, blood staining my shirt. "But if I'm going down, I'm taking every last one of them with me." Police sirens echoed in the distance. The goons fled. Left their weapons. Their gear. Their pride. We stayed behind, huddled in the dark, hearts thumping, holding each other like survivors of a shipwreck. Ava looked at me through tears. Why did you come?" And I finally told her the truth. Because I finally remembered what wealth really means. And it isn't money. They airlifted me out 2 hours later. I flatlined once on the way to the hospital. Saw darkness. And in it, a kitchen. 2 people dancing barefoot, laughing under the hum of a fridge light. Then, light again. And pain. And breathing. I was still here,